Have you talked with Larry yet for your end of the season discussion? If so, what were the nature of those conversations?
Yeah, I had a conversation with Larry. Good conversation. Just talked about this season and a little bit about what we would like to do this off season. But it was a good conversation. I won't go into details about exactly what we discussed, but it was a good conversation.
Nate, what do you feel this team's greatest needs are to move forward?
Well, I thought last year or this past season, we needed to be more consistent. We talked about being tougher. We certainly need to address rebounding, improve in that area, and I think just improve maturity. 13 and 28 on the road is not going to get it. And I think as we mature and understand how to play, coming with that sense of urgency on the road, we'll be a better team.
Nate, can you and Larry see Lance Stevenson going into next season as you're starting to?
I think that is open. I'm certainly open to trying to balance our roster depending on who we have on our roster next season. As Lance has played that position. He started alongside of Paul before. They played some good minutes on the court together for a short period of time towards the end of the season. So we can certainly consider doing something like that.
Nate, do you want to further dedicate yourself to up-tempo scoring the way last season began, or you mentioned rebounding? Do you want to become more traditional with another big and really focus on rim protection and rebounding?
Well, we talked about a style of play, and we wanted to improve our pace last season. We had to change that approach in a sense of focusing on the defensive end of the floor to try to get more stops. If you want to play faster, you got to get stops. You got to rebound the basketball, and we tried to address that last year by kind of slowing down, limiting the possessions in a sense, and trying to focus, change the mindset of the group that I had. As far as focusing on the defensive end of the floor, and in hope that getting more stops, rebounding the ball, will allow us to get into transition and play at the pace that we wanted to play at. So, again, it depends on the roster that I have in front of me to work with that style of play.
Nate, you go through all the exit interviews with every player and obviously with Larry. Just, is there a considered sort of known plan or for the identity of the team moving forward, or is that still sort of kind of up in the air based on how the season played out and depending on who is on the roster?
We didn't get into that, but, a lot of that's going to depend on, the free agency. We have a couple guys that are free agents that I'm sure we're going to be looking to sign. We have a few guys that have option years that they may opt out. So if they do that, can we bring them back, or do we replace them with another player? So a lot of that's going to depend on the off season.
As you make plans and try to foresee what you're going to build, are you doing so with the presumption that Paul will be a part of this thing next year? Or
Absolutely.
Do you have a reason to believe that? Have you been told that by someone like Paul or Larry?
Well, Paul is under contract. I had a good conversation with Paul during our meeting, and he wants the same thing that I want, the organization want, and that's to win. And he is under contract, so my plans are that he will be back with us, and we'll be building to be successful next year.
Another player who will be a free agent, or who is a free agent towards next season, is Jeff Teague. Just what was that conversation like with him, and do the plans sort of are in line with him being back next season?
Well, I had a good conversation with Jeff, and he was really excited. He expressed that he really wants to be back. I thought he showed some improvement, towards the end of the season. I liked really his approach to that last game, really challenging Kyrie in that last game. But good conversation. I think that we can grow together. After having him for a season, as I've told him, he needs to be better. I think I can make him better. We as a group, I feel we need to improve. And, so there'll be a lot of push next season with our roster.
In going with every interview with the players, are there themes, are there sort of pinpoints or topics that you learned about how the team as a whole, or your players, were feeling about the way the season ended, or how the season sort of went given the consistency?
Yeah, well, we talked about a lot of things. We talked about the season. We talked about the off season, their future, give me feedback on myself and the staff and the season. And, so we talked about a lot of things with all the players. And as I mentioned, good conversations with our group. We know that, number one goal for us was to make the playoffs. This was not a rebuild. As I said at the beginning of the season, was more of a reload. So the number one goal was accomplished, which was making the playoffs. Now, we know that we need to be more consistent in our play. We dropped some games that we felt we should have won, and we'll have to be better. Okay, we're expecting to be better, but and we know that. So, but goal number one going into the season was to make the playoffs.
Nate, what do you need to see from Miles Turner, and is his future at the 5, or do you think his future is at the 4?
I think he can play both positions. We've talked about that during the season. I haven't gotten into that conversation with Larry about Miles during the off season, but we have talked about the fact that I think he can play the 4 and the 5. Is there room to bring another big in like we played him 2 seasons ago with Jan Mahimi, a bigger center? I think that's a possibility. But I think he has the versatility to play both positions, and I've addressed that with him. The number one thing that we want Miles to work on this summer is strength. We talked about that. We're getting a plan together to get him stronger. Part of that will be just maturity and developing, but the number one thing is to work on his strength, so that whether he's playing the 4 or the 5, he's going to need to be stronger.
Nate, in regards to defense, a lot of guys kept pinpointing throughout the entire season breakdowns in communication. Were you surprised so late in the season that communication continued to be an issue, and what could you do to counteract that going into a new season?
Well, you just continue to train and condition. You work on that. That's the number one thing I think for all teams. Defensively is being a better communicating team out there. When you're faced against a team like Cleveland, who can put you in so many different situations, you're going to have some breakdowns. And as we talk before games, during the game, the number one thing is you got to communicate. Even though we've gone over this and shoot around. We've gone over this in the huddles. When you're out there, you can't assume that your teammate is going to be able to read your mind. You have to communicate all actions out on the floor, and it's it seems like a simple thing, but so many teams, that's a challenge. Some of these guys are playing with mouthpieces in their mouth and can't talk, and some of them are just at times don't know what to say. But that is something that I think all team sports they work on, and the better you are at that, a lot of times the better you are on the floor.
One thing you mentioned after Game 4 was conditioning for, the balance of the regular season and being ready to close when the playoffs roll around. But another part of that was you mentioned during the regular season dropping some games. Obviously, I think it was 8 losses to the bottom 7 teams in the league. That if you just split those games, you're looking at maybe home court advantage in the first round. How do you balance increasing the emphasis on winning the games you need to win in the regular season while also what is the idea for conditioning? What's the manifestation of the idea for conditioning for the playoffs?
I think coming into the season with that mindset that, look, you've gotten all of your vacation out of the way, and when you come into the season, you're focused on that season and not playing yourself into shape, waiting until you're knocked down to respond with that sense of urgency. When you come in, you're focused, you're mentally, physically ready to go. And I thought at the beginning of the season and really throughout the season, for us on the road, we just didn't have that mental toughness that you need, that mental focus that you need to win ball games. We were, I thought, playing those games without the urgency. I think at times without the respect of our opponents. As you mentioned, a number of those losses were to teams that were under 500, not playoff teams, and we knew we were better than that. Building towards getting into the playoffs and being able to elevate your game, that's something I think you develop during the course of the season. We're playing against the defending champions. They were accustomed to that level of play and that intensity that you have to bring to the floor. I thought our guys, we played a hell of a half in Game 3 where we built a lead, but I thought we wore down. We may have left it all in that first half. And the third and fourth quarter, you saw Cleveland elevate their game, just seemed to get stronger and faster. They were getting on the loose balls. They were getting all the rebounds. They were getting out in transition. And mentally, we seemed like we were kind of running in mud during that time. That's conditioning yourself. And Cleveland, LeBron, of the last 5, 6, 7 seasons, this guy has played in the finals every, year. So you might think you're tired mentally. You have to find ways to get past that in order to win games this time of the season.
Nate, in your conversation with Larry since the season ended, is the emphasis still towards reloading for next season or trying to get better versus any
we
type
didn't get into those conversations. We'll start to talk about that probably in the next few weeks. But basically, it was just conversation about our players and the season.
I know it's tough to try to get your thoughts collected about 86-game season when the season ends on Sunday. But since then, how much have you thought about what you were able to do successfully and what you might want to do differently or change towards next season?
Well, again, as I said, goal number one was to get to the playoffs, and that was accomplished. Now we felt we could have been better. As I mentioned, there were games we felt that we should have won. You're going up against Cleveland in the playoffs in the first round. They're listed at number 2 seed, but we know that that's more like a number 1 seed. I thought we showed some growth, some improvement, probably the last couple weeks of the season. Adding Lance to the roster, I thought was a good move because I really felt we needed that boost, that energy, that kind of passion. All season long was pretty much working with somewhat of a quiet group that needed, just someone to kind of lift that passion on the floor, and I thought it helped not only the team, but a lot of our guys, going fighting our way into the playoffs as well as going up against Cleveland.
Nate, how did you feel about your team's leadership? And if you found it lacking, does it need to be addressed through personnel changes, or can it come from within?
Well, I think when you look at our team, the makeup of our team, you automatically just says that Paul George is going to be the leader, and that's not always the case. I think he certainly tried to lead this team. It was a first for him in the sense that he had a different group of players, and what is leadership? Is it just someone who's always vocal, or is it someone who does it by example? I think he tried to be vocal, more vocal during the start of the season, but what you saw at the end of the season was by example. Just coming out and playing and going out and doing the things that needed to be done on that floor in order to give us a chance to win. And I thought the players followed that. So it was a learning experience for Paul as well. And I think he is the leader of this team. Guys follow his play and his actions. And when he has been good for us, we've won games. And this team has played at a level to give themselves a chance to win games.
To that end, obviously, last year, the Toronto series, Paul took it to a different level. This year, it was really the last month or so, maybe 5 weeks, that he was on a level he wasn't at the other 4 months. And the question of sustainability, is that what Paul needs to be through the back? Can he reach that level and stay at that level? And if so, how do you get him there to stay there throughout the season?
That was part of our conversation. Again, coming in with a new group this season, you don't know how guys are going to work out. You bring all these players in, and their names, and we've seen them be successful, but you don't know how all of that is going to work together, and it takes time. It takes time to learn who you're playing with. You got a backcourt mate in Jeff Teague that who dominates the ball and needs the ball to be successful as a point. And you have Thaddeus who's coming in at the 4. You have a really rookie center in Miles who's starting for the first time, coming in and playing. So you don't know how all of this is going to work out. And I think all of our guys kind of came in with, let's just fill each other out and I don't want to step on anybody's toes and see where I fit in. And I think it got to the point where Paul kind of just felt, look, I got to take my game to another level. Certainly, the last month or so of the season when we're playing 500 basketball and, it's a chance that we may not make it. He just decided, we had this conversation, that he has to take his game to another level. So my hope and my conversation with Paul is that I think he can get to that point from the start. It's very similar to what some of these players, and if he does that, then we're talking about MVP type of performance. We're talking about what Russell Westbrook is doing and James Harden is doing. Those guys have done that for the entire season. So, yes, I think he can get to that level.
Nate, I know you and Larry will have more conversations about where to add to this roster moving forward, but in talking about passion, tenacity, getting leadership, how much of that will be sort of discussed versus just trying to, like you said, do what you guys did last year, which is trying to get quality players, but understanding the chemistry that goes involved with adding more pieces to the equation as the season goes on?
Well, look, Larry is at every practice. He's at, of course, every game. He's watching everything. He knows what this team needs. That was the main reason I think he went out and got Lance. He knew that this team needed a little something different, and Lance was available, and he made that move to when Rodney had his injury to try to fill in and bring a player in. So, we'll sit down and we'll talk, and he knows exactly what we need to do to be able to compete in the East.
One guy you guys developed pretty well this year and got better as the season progressed was Glenn. I know he has an option for next season, but he's indicated that he wants to be back. Just what was successful about Glenn? Where could his future possibly go with this team next year?
Well, I mean, we played, 13 guys this year, and, a lot of that was due to injuries, and, all of a sudden, Glenn comes back, and, how does he fit in? At the start of the season last year, Glenn wasn't in rotation. That was CJ at that 3 position, but CJ started off on the injured list, and Glenn got opportunity to play and played well enough that, okay, you got to try to fit him in. I like his talent. I like what he brought to the team. I think I felt like every time he got a chance to play, he gave us something good. There were moments where he had to start, and I was comfortable with putting him out there at the wing position, whether it was the 2 or the 3. So he played himself into a rotation spot, minutes on the floor, and it was somewhat of a challenge once everybody was healthy to get guys on the floor. But pretty much what I did was I went to Rodney and Monte as the guards and Glenn as the 3. And, Aaron, we kind of took minutes from his position. But I like Glenn's potential and what he brings to the team.
Did you guys go through a plan with him, or what was your sort of hope for him, or what he would do this offseason to maybe have an increased role next season?
Went through a plan with all the guys, and I thought Glenn had a great summer last year. He was in the gym early and working on his game. He was in great shape. When he came into camp, there was a challenge put out to him that he had to come in and earn the right to be on the floor. He worked all summer long to do that. It's a similar challenge presented to him this offseason to work hard and improve his game, improve his shooting, improve his strength, to be able to get minutes next season.